You're delivering more than your peers. You're the one fixing the messes, hitting the deadlines, keeping the team afloat. So why does it feel like you're still standing still? Why are you still invisible when you're clearly the strongest performer in the room? Why are other people, sometimes less experienced, sometimes less capable, getting promoted while you keep getting more responsibility, but not the recognition of role that should come with it? If you've been wondering, why am I not getting promoted? Why am I so stuck at work when I'm overperforming? This one's for you. Because here's the truth. You're not stuck because you're overperforming. You're stuck because you're overperforming in a way that the system doesn't reward. And this is one of the biggest, most frustrating traps I see women in tech leadership, especially the ones who are ambitious, high achieving, deeply, deeply capable, and quietly holding everything together. That's the frustration I see for so many of you. Today, we're going to dig into why high performers get overlooked, the neuroscience and organizational dynamics behind career stagnation, and the real solution to getting unstuck without burning out, without overworking, and by turning yourself into someone you're not. Because I don't want that for you. I want you to be you, and I want you to get promoted because you are awesome the way you are. Let's dive in. Let's start with the part nobody tells you. Overperforming is one of the fastest ways to get stuck in your career. I know that sounds counterintuitive, especially for us as women in tech, where we've been conditioned our entire lives to believe that if we just work harder, deliver more, prove ourselves again and again, someone will eventually notice. But overperformance creates a specific career pattern that I call the workhorse identity. And once you've seen it, you know that you're seen as the dependable doer, the fixer, the one who always just gets it done. It becomes incredibly hard to be seen as the strategist, the leader, or the person ready for that next level. You're the essential cog in the machine in this situation, the one everyone is relying upon. But that's it. That's it. Because here's the thing about the high performer who isn't getting promoted, and maybe this is you. Your organization has labeled you, just not with the label you want. To them, you are reliable, competent, indispensable. You may be told that. The one who will keep everything afloat. That's all wonderful until you realize that competence is not the same thing as leadership visibility. And this is where the career stagnation trap really begins. When you're the one who holds everything together, you actually reduce your organization's incentive to move you up. Your value is tied to doing, not leading. They depend on your output, your speed, your ability to handle chaos, your ability to rescue failing projects. But none of those are the skills that get someone promoted into senior leadership roles. The people who move up aren't the ones who do that the most. They're the ones who show the capacity to operate at the next level. They're the ones who demonstrate strategic clarity and influence and executive level thinking. And often, the overperformer, that would be us, is too busy firefighting, too busy delivering, to even have the time to show those things. If that sounds familiar, and I get so many women coming to me who are like, I'm too busy to work on my promotion. I don't understand why this is not enough. I don't want a promotion if I'm required to do more. But this is why so many brilliant women just like you are being held back. We're saying to ourselves, I'm doing everything right and nothing is happening. Because from the outside, it looks like you're thriving. It looks like you're perfectly matched to your current role. It looks like you're essential exactly where you are. And you've probably been told you should be grateful for where you are by other people, which means nobody is thinking she's ready for that next level. They're thinking, let's not break what's working. If you've hit this career plateau, it's because you're not lacking skill, but because you're too good at the wrong things. I know, stick with me here. And yes, gender bias is part of this. As women in tech, we are socially conditioned and rewarded our entire lives for being helpful, supportive, dependable. Meanwhile, men are conditioned and rewarded for being visionary or strategic or actually deliver less. Overperformance reinforces our gendered expectations as a species. It feeds the perception that women are the doers, not the drivers. That's why so many women become the invisible leader. We're excellent at our work, but unseen as executives in waiting. Or indeed, you might be the executive who doesn't have a voice in the room. You might be the executive who you know there's another level you want to go, but you seem to have plateaued. Today, this episode, listening to this, is the day I want stuff to shift for you. When you finally understand that your output is not the thing that gets you promoted, I need you to stop producing so much, in fact. Instead, we're going to work on your visibility, your strategic framing, your influence, and the perceived potential of you, not your potential right here, right now, but the perceived potential. Those are the things that get you promoted. This is where you become problem aware. You understand the genuine problem. You think the problem is, I need to work harder. That is not the problem. In fact, I would say that's exactly the problem. If you work harder, you are never going to get promoted. If you actually understand the problem, which is you are doing the wrong things, you don't need to stay stuck anymore. I don't want you staying stuck because you're not good enough. That is not true. You are good enough. You're stuck because you've outgrown your current strategy for career advancement. So let's talk about the real reasons you feel stuck beyond the work harder model, right? Beyond the be more strategic, that vague performance feedback that says nowhere. Because if you've ever wondered, why am I not getting promoted? Why do I keep getting great feedback but no career progression? And why am I doing more than everyone else but still standing still? This is the part that nobody explained to you. Nobody explained this to me. There are 4 hidden barriers that keep us as women in tech, especially when we're high performers, are locked in career stagnation. So let's break these down. Barrier number 1, the perception gap. This is the biggest and least understood reason for career plateaus. You know you're capable of leading at the next level. Your peers know it. Your team knows it. But the people who make the promotion decisions, they are not seeing you. They're not seeing your potential. Here's why. They see your output, but they can't see the potential you're capable of. Overperforming actually reinforces this perception. We're great where we are. We're reliable in our current lane, and we shouldn't be moved because the output would be lost. This perception gap quietly locks us as high achievers in place. It's not about whether you can lead, it's about whether you are seen as someone who leads. Executive presence, visibility, strategic communication are the tools that close this gap. So if you've ever had that feedback, it's time to work on those 3 things. And there are other episodes in my podcast history to talk about those. They are topics that are so incredibly important. But if you are hearing executive presence, visibility, strategic communication as things you need to be working on, there is a perception gap between your capability and what other people are seeing of you. Okay, barrier number 2, visibility misalignment. Most of us fall into the same trap. We're visible, but to the wrong people. We're visible to our peers, to our team. We're visible as the person who holds everything together, but we're not visible to the decision makers who evaluate leadership potential. I had a client recently who was going through an acquisition. She was given a retention bonus, so incredibly valuable to the organization. If you are singled out for a retention bonus during an acquisition, you are important, but she's not being tapped for more. She's seen as important as somebody gluing together an existing team, but that is it. There's a perception problem in that she should just stay there. They're really worried about losing her in that role, which is why they've given her retention bonus, which is a very nice thing, don't get me wrong. But actually what they've done is said, you need to stay here. This only come about after the acquisition is closed, and the conversations are, this is where you're going to be. This is where we need you. We need you to focus on this one thing. And it's holding her up. If you're not visible to the right people, the people that are evaluating leadership potential, promotion is not going to happen, because promotion is about impact. It's about who sees that impact. And if they haven't seen you, they don't see your decision making, they don't see your strategic thinking or your ability to handle ambiguity. In the case of my client, her boss was like, this person is essential. We need to keep her. But not because of her decision making or strategic thinking. It was because she was holding this engineering team together. You literally can't be put forward by your peers for a promotion, by your team for a promotion. Even if they adore you, they literally cannot do it. So you need to be seen as strategic in decision making and handling ambiguity by the people making the decision. If not, people less experienced than you are going to glide past you. Their visibility is aligned with the power dynamics. Yours is aligned with delivery. And that misalignment has to shift before your career does. Okay, barrier number 3, your strategic framing. This is when you're told you're not strategic enough. If you've ever received the feedback, explicit or implied, that you're not strategic enough, you have to hear this one. It almost never means you're not strategic enough. In fact, I feel like that's just an excuse when they're trying to explain something they don't know how to articulate. What it means is you're not framing your work in a way that signals strategic leadership. Most of us communicate through details, execution, tasks, processes, and fixing the mess we've inherited or been given, or the world currently is spontaneously combusting around. That makes you look capable, but not senior. Senior leaders speak in outcomes, priorities, trade-offs, risk, reward, alignment, business impact, all the buzzwords. You get what I'm talking about. In particular, it is talking about what the business needs. It's not about intelligence. You're already clever enough. You were clever enough 20 years ago. It's about your language, the language of executive decision making. This is where so many of us as brilliant women get labeled as operators instead of leaders. Or you might be a people leader, but not a strategic leader. And that label can stall us for years and years and years. Okay, let's move on to the 4th and final barrier. Barrier number 4, the political capital blind spot. You can be phenomenal at your job and still stagnate. If you don't have advocates, promotions are never just about performance. They're about perception and relationships and trust. Men often get political capital through influence networks. We talk about the old boys network for a reason. It really is a thing. Social ties, visibility in the power rooms, reciprocal favors and systems. I mean, you just have to listen to how men talk to each other at work to know it's different. And when you put them in a majority, we are on the back foot. We tend to get told, just keep doing great work and it will pay off. Let me tell you this, it's not going to happen. It doesn't happen at mid-senior leadership. It's not going to happen at the VP level. It's not going to happen in the tech world. If you are ever told, just keep going, it will pay off, I'm sorry, but that is somebody either lying to themselves or lying to you. Maybe both. You need the people in the room where the decisions are being made to say your name when you're not there. You need advocates who know your aspirations, your impact, your readiness. If your career stalls, no matter how exceptional you are, you need to take control, which is why I want you to understand these 4 barriers I've just gone through, because I want you to see why you need to show up differently, why you need to realize that being early for work, fixing problems, being dependable, delivering more than everyone else is not going to move you forward. It hasn't so far. It's not going to work anymore. And if anybody ever says to you, just need to work harder, I'm sorry, but you really, really don't. That is not what makes a great executive. You're not stuck because you're not ready. You're stuck because the system is rewarding the wrong behaviors. Nobody's taught you the strategy that actually gets high-performing women like you promoted. So today, we're going to change that. Let's talk about if hard work were enough to get you promoted, what would be going on? Well, you'd be 2 levels higher than you already are. You wouldn't be listening to this episode of the Leading Women in Tech podcast. You'd be sitting in that role, stepping into a bigger remit, not wondering why your career has stalled, despite your exceptional performance you bring every single day. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Hard work creates competence, not career advancement. Hard work builds reputation, but not visibility as a leader. Hard work sustains the business, which is why they like to reward you in terms of, we can't afford to lose you, here's a good bonus. But it doesn't signal readiness for that next level. This is the hard work that makes you plateau. This is the bit where we rely on a strategy that's worked perfectly up until here, but it becomes completely ineffective as we become more and more senior. So let's talk about the blockers this is introducing. This is understanding what's really going on when you just work hard and why it feels like, oh my God, how could I possibly work any harder? I can't get promoted because I have to work harder, because that's just a myth we need to get rid of. Okay, here's the first blocker. Hard work builds the wrong identity around you. As we've discussed, when you overperform, the system starts seeing you as the rescuer, the person who fixes everything, the doer, the reliable operator, the one who doesn't drop the ball. This reinforces that workforce identity that we talked about at the beginning, not a strategic leader identity. You're building the wrong identity. People are seeing you as this reliable person, but promotions are based on future potential, and overperformance signals present usefulness. It keeps you essential at your current level, right? This is your first and most important blocker. If you are essential where you are, I know this sounds ironic, you will not get promoted because you are essential and invisible at that next level because you are too important where you are. They cannot conceive of you being further up because the importance of where you are is so high. I know this is maddening, but it's what's going on. Okay, blocker number 2. Hard work reduces your strategic energy. This one is a biggie and one I get so much resistance from women I work with on, because hard work fills up our calendar. If your calendar is chock full and you're like, I have to work after hours to get the actual work done, you're reducing your strategic energy. Hard work keeps you busy in the wrong things. Hard work creates constant context shifting, which is exhausting and not good for strategic thinking. But leadership requires thinking time, spaciousness, reflection, prioritization, the ability to zoom out. If you are in the weeds being super busy, you are just less strategic because you're firefighting all day. You're exhausted. If you cannot lead because your head is so full and you're consumed by delivery, you're not strategic enough. A full calendar kills your career advancement. And you might be thinking, but wait, hold on. Aren't all executives just like crazy busy? Many of them are, and many of them are creaking at the seams. The ones who have the biggest impact are the ones who do not have a full calendar. It just doesn't look that way because the ones you see a lot are the ones that are in every meeting. But actually, they're the ones who are least strategic. Not because we aren't capable, because there is no capacity to show senior level leaders ahead of us what we are capable of, what we actually possess in terms of our behavior and competence. To be promoted, you have to have strategic thinking time. You have to create spaciousness. By the way, this goes hand in hand with barrier number 1, in that if you've built the wrong identity, you're just busy. If instead you free yourself up, which is a whole other conversation about how to do this, but if you free yourself up, you're going to change your identity as the person who levels up her team. Level isn't essential, which is a scary thing to do, I know. But you level up your team and they do the work. You think differently, you think higher. You're suddenly able to work at that more strategic energy level. Okay, let's talk blocker number 3. Hard work hides our ambition. This is a sneaky one because we often think our excellence speaks for itself. But in leadership, ambition has to be visible, not implied. And we often don't like saying that we're ambitious, right? If senior leaders think you're happy, if they think you're just grateful to be here, if they think you'll keep working like this indefinitely, they will not prioritize moving you up. They're going to prioritize the person who's getting grumpy, who they do want to keep, and who's just a bit more complaining about the lack of performance improvement in their career, right? And they will absolutely prioritize the person who raises their hand, asks for the role, positions their readiness, and makes their aspirations known. Now, I know many of you are saying, I want a promotion, but many of you aren't. So if this one is you, I want you to understand hard work makes you admired, but your ambition is part of your promotability. You have to share your ambition and you have to be strategic about how you do that, or you will not be promoted. Blocker number 4, hard work blocks our sponsorship and advocacy. Advocates don't promote people because they work hard. They promote people because they trust them with a larger scope, bigger risks, and more visibility. It's based on confidence, trust, clarity, perceived leadership abilities, influence, and strategic alignment. When you are busy delivering, you're not nurturing relationships. You are building the wrong kind of political capital, and you're definitely not demonstrating executive presence. If you're simply producing, that's not what people sponsor. They sponsor people that are confident, that have strategic alignment, that are able to hold more, take on bigger risks, and deliver on that bigger set of risks, and they're visible as they do it. So if you are too busy, That's likely blocking sponsorship of you when you're not in the room. And then blocker number 5, hard work feels virtuous. Yes, but it reinforces the bias. So this one's a really hard one for us to stomach, because this is me telling us that, there's bias out there and the way we're behaving is reinforcing it. I hate to say this, but our gender really does matter. As a species, women are rewarded for helpfulness, responsibility, caretaking, stepping in, stepping up, picking up the slack. So when we overperform in this way, we're seen as on brand, right? You're doing all the things that women do. It fits the stereotype. It reinforces the stereotype. Yes, we are a stereotypical species as a species. Stereotypes are a thing. We have to accept that they exist, but it doesn't mean we have to put up with them. We should always be challenging them. And that includes in ourselves. We are socially rewarded for it, so we have been conditioned our entire lives to be helpful in this way. It comforts senior leaders to see us behaving this way as well. They'll feel like if we give her this, she'll handle it. Which is when men often get promoted based on potential, but as women, we know we get promoted based on proof. We have to be so much more overqualified than our male colleagues. On average, there is generalization. There are people out there who've overcome their stereotypes. But, we're a species. We all have stereotypes. When humans do it, it's part of our operating procedure. They are there somewhere. Overperformance in this area keeps us proving that we fit this comforting narrative of where a woman should be in the workplace. Hard work becomes an anchor, not an accelerator. So here's the hard bit you need to hear. Hard work was the strategy that got you here. It made you valuable. It made people like you because you fit into their comfortable bucket of what a woman should be like. But it's not the strategy that's going to get you to the next level, because you are now stagnant because you are amazing at what you're doing, but you're not good enough for up there. You're stagnant because you're using the wrong success formula at this stage of your career. Let me say that again. There is nothing wrong with you. Your excellence isn't an issue. You don't need to work harder, quite the contrary. Your strategy simply hasn't been updated to match your seniority. This is the moment that we should go from feeling defeated to feeling empowered, because we now know we can solve this problem. It's not personal, and it's closer to the results that we want than we possibly realize. So I really want you to hear this. This is about developing a new promotion strategy. This is not about making you any better than you already are, because you're already awesome. It's just using a different toolkit to get you to the next level. Okay. Let's talk about some levers we can use, because now you know what hard work isn't going to do for you. In fact, that it's actually blocking your career progress. What can we do that moves the needle? I want some clear, predictable things that you can use. And there are things that I talk about all the time that consistently work to get us unstuck, to get us promoted, to allow us to step into roles that we're fully capable of. None of these require you to become louder, more aggressive, or a completely different person. I don't want that for you. You don't want it. I want you to be the best version of you. I do not want you to be the man in the room. I really don't. Let me just say this again. I want no women to think that they have to become more like the men in the room than the men are. We need to let that go as a way of getting ahead. It does not work. When we show up like the men, it actually bounces back and hits us in the face, because society doesn't expect us to behave that way. I want you to show up as the best authentic version of yourself. I don't want you to show up with a different identity. I want you to show up with the most polished identity. Yes, some of it's going to be out of your comfort zone. You're going to have to talk about what you want. You're going to have to talk about things that you don't normally talk about, that you don't normally put your hand up for, like strategy and thinking. But that doesn't mean it isn't who you are. It's just getting comfortable with raising your voice in new situations. It is not being louder and more aggressive. It is not, okay? Executive presence for men, by the way, does not work for women. It is different for us. We have to recognize that because of societal conditioning, maybe one day it'll be different. But right now, if you try and mimic a man, you will not have executive presence. They will be called having executive presence. You will not. You need a different way of doing this. So let's walk through what we can do that actually accelerates our career growth for us as women, rather than being overlooked or rather than becoming more like men, which is just going to backfire. The first leader is thinking like an executive, strategic framing to think like an executive. This is the single most important shift. Write this one down, because wherever you're at, it's never too early to start thinking this way. Even if you're an executive already, but you've just got here through grit and working incredibly hard, you need to start thinking this way. If you are early in your career, you need to start thinking this way. It's the single biggest shift you can make that will accelerate your reputation within weeks. I would say within days, but somebody's got to notice, and people are slow to notice a shift in how you're behaving. At senior levels, no one promotes you based on how much you do. They promote you based on how you think. And strategic framing is the ability to position your work vocally and in the written word to other people through outcomes, priorities, trade-offs, impact on the business, customer value, alignment with leadership goals, irrespective of the title, whether you're in HR, engineering, product, sales, marketing, I don't care. All of you have a way to position yourselves in terms of the impact on the business. Even as an individual contributor, the work you're doing ultimately is there because the business needs you to be there. Most of us are already strategic, but we're just not communicating strategically enough. When we shift from describing the tasks we're doing to articulating our outcomes, you instantly start signaling executive level thinking, even as an individual contributor. So as I said, you've got to start today if you're not doing this. Whether you're a junior level IC who's listening to this podcast thinking this is going to be me one day, or you're an executive who's just like, I'm so burned out, I need to do something different. Whatever level you're at, this is the first one to do. You have to start talking outcomes and business in every conversation. So yes, you're not going to change any of the work you're doing. You are just going to be changing how you announce it, how you talk about it, how you give updates. This lever alone has moved so many of my clients from stuck to promoted. Single most important lever. Okay, lever number 2, visibility. Visibility is not about self-promotion in a braggy way that feels uncomfortable and icky. It's not about spotlight chasing. It's not look at me, look at me. Leadership visibility is about letting the right people see the right version of your leadership. It means being visible to decision makers, not just your peers. It means sharing impact, not effort. And don't be the person who complains about how hard she's working, because that's just going to backfire, believe me. It means having your name attached to outcomes. Don't be afraid to own things your team has done, but outcomes and not tasks. It means letting your executive thinking be seen, and it means showing up in the rooms where strategy is being shaped. If you are being invited to rooms but you're not going, or you're invited but you just stay stumm, this is your sign to change. Most of us are visible in the wrong way, at the wrong level. This lever is about flipping the spotlight to the level that matters. Your leadership visibility has to be at the right level. Lever number 3 is your executive presence and communication. So executive presence is a huge topic, but it is not about being loud, dominating, or posturing. The short version of it is how people experience you, how you're clear, how you're calm, how you're composed, how you're thoughtful, how you're confident. It's your ability to walk into a room, hold space, own the tone, own the timing, own the conversation. You can speak very little and have a huge amount of executive presence. I think brevity is a huge part of this. It's about how you frame your ideas. It's about how you regulate your nervous system before you speak. It's about how you respond to challenging situations. We're often told as women that we lack executive presence or we lack gravitas, but what we really need is a communication toolkit that reflects our leadership style, not a man's leadership style, not a man's communication style. This is yours alone. This is a lever that's game changing, but you need to figure this one out. Lever number 4, your stakeholder influence. At senior levels, your ability to influence across the organization becomes more important than your ability to deliver. Influence is getting buy-in, aligning stakeholders without too many arguments. It's shaping decisions and getting your team to get behind it. It's navigating conflicting priorities, particularly between groups. I mean, one of the biggest ones is engineering and product butt heads, sales and marketing butt heads, customer success and sales butt heads, customer success and engineering butt heads. I mean, I could go on. There are classic tension points in an organization. If you're the one who can deal with conflicting priorities, handle difficult personalities, create a team that works beautifully together, and you have the stakeholders aligned behind you, creating a followership, High performance is the ability to stay in execution mode because you have these people lined up behind you. Being in execution mode through grit, determination, and excessive work, that's not stakeholder influence of the type we need. We need the ability to stay in execution mode because everything's lined up, because you've done the politics across functions, across tasks. And that's where the promotions really happen, in the conversations that shape the work you're doing, not the work itself. So you need to make sure that you have that political capital to influence everybody around you and multiple layers away from you as well. Okay, the fifth and final lever, political capital and advocacy. So I've talked about capital, I've talked about politics. Now, what happens is when we get advocates, because we have that political capital, because people are seeing we're able to do things. This is one reason I resist. People will tell me I don't do politics. I leave big companies because I don't like politics. Women will tell me that I don't understand what capital means. It's the one we need the most, though, because here's the truth. If nobody in the room knows who you are and your aspirations, your achievements, or your potential, you are not promotable. Not because you're not ready, but because no one is advocating for you. Political capital isn't slimy and horrible. It's simply relationships, trust, credibility, connection, shared wins, visibility with power. It's not manipulation. It's your leadership currency. It means you're good at doing humans. Politics comes from the word polis, which is people, right? It is about dealing with other human beings. And I say this as a complete introvert. If you can work with humans, you can create political capital because you can build those relationships and that trust and that credibility. Without this, however exceptional you are at delivery, you are going to stay stuck in the same role for years. Now, those 5 levers, let me just recap them for you. Lever number 1 is strategic thinking, think like an executive. Lever number 2 is leadership visibility. Lever number 3 is executive presence and communication. Lever number 4 is stakeholder influence. And lever 5 is your political capital and advocacy. When you combine these, that's when the superpower comes in, because you do need all 5. You might have 1 or 2 already. You might have 0, and that's okay. But when you combine 5, when you use all of these together, it's a completely different trajectory in your career. You're never going to stay stuck ever again. You're going to move from doing to leading, invisible to recognized, overworked to strategically positioned. You're going to move from plateaued to promotable. And that's what I want for you. Okay, if you're listening to this and something's tugging at you, there's a little voice saying, I think this might be me. I want to just check where you are right now. Let's make this concrete. Let's make sure you feel really good about moving forward. Now you've got those levers. I want to walk you through the signs that you're overdue an upgrade, right? Not promotion, an upgrade. I want you to think about what success is going to look for you moving forward. So here are a few signs that you're overdue for something. Sign number 1, you're praised constantly, but nothing changes. You hear things like, you're doing great work. We don't know what we'd do without you. You're such a rock for the team. But somehow you're always in the same role, the same level, the same pay band. If the feedback is glowing, but the trajectory is flat, you've outgrown your current leadership strategy. Praise is not progression. Praise without action is a plateau. One of the biggest ones for me was, I've got a client right now who keeps getting told by her boss, you're my successor. This has been true for 3 years. And it's like, well, are you moving on? I said, when she came to me, I was like, well, has anything happened with that? She has just been primed for stay happy, keep being here. I'll take care of you. Praise is not progression. Praise without an action is a plateau. Okay, so that's sign number 1. Maybe it's time to pay attention to the fact you're praised, but nothing changes. Sign number 2, you're the go-to problem solver, but not the go-to leader. People rely on you for quick fixes, urgent escalations, rescuing projects, cleaning up messes, or if you were like me, turning around failing teams. That was me. And you're the problem solver in that situation. But no one comes to you for strategic decisions, vision setting, organizational alignment. It's because your value is seen through the lens of she gets things done, not she shapes the future. That's a visibility problem and not a capability problem. It is often a sign that you're ready for more, but people just don't see you in the right way. So that's sign number 2. Sign number 3, you're exhausted, but you can't point to meaningful progress. In fact, this may well be the classic of, I'm going to leave tech because I can't work any harder, but I don't want to stay here, which always breaks my heart. That is not the reason to give up, my love. It's a reason to shift and do different work. It is not a reason to leave the tech industry, because you shouldn't be working harder to get a promotion. If you're delivering more than ever, you're working harder than ever, and you're more responsible than ever, and yet nothing in your career has moved, this is a burnout-infused version of stagnation. Your effort keeps increasing, but your outcomes stay exactly the same. When the return on effort is 0, you are overdue for a reinvention. Sign number 4, you've received the be more strategic feedback, but nobody can tell you how. So if you've ever been told you need to think more strategically, you need to show more leadership presence, you're not quite ready yet, and no practical guidance to back any of that up, what they're really saying is, we don't see the behaviors we associate with senior leaders. That's what they're saying. It isn't a gap in your ability. It's a gap in your positioning. You've outgrown the way you communicate your leadership, and we need to change it. Sign number 5, others get opportunities you're more qualified for. This one hurts immensely. And this is one of the main reasons I think women come to work with me, is they've been passed over while somebody less capable, less competent, less experienced gets tapped for the opportunity that they wanted. You are the safe pair of hands. You're kept where you are. This is the sign that your potential is invisible, not because you're lacking it, but because the system hasn't seen you enough. And you've been taught to stay that way. Let me just be honest about that. You've had an entire life being told to keep your head down and keep everybody smiling. That's how you'll get ahead. That's why people are stepping over you now. So if that's you, I want you to know you're not alone. As I said, it's probably the single biggest reason why women come to work with me. Sign number 6. You feel like you're constantly proving instead of growing. If you find yourself validating your worth, solving the next fire, delivering the next project, raising the bar again and again, you're caught in the proving loop, proving yourself over and over, and yet not getting anywhere from it. Leaders don't get promoted when they're in the proving loop. They get promoted for projecting leadership. So it's time to recognize you've outgrown the proving mode strategy. Okay, the 7th and final sign that maybe it's time for something else. You've become indispensable at the wrong level. This one really stings because it feels like a compliment. You're so important to this team. You're the glue. We rely on you so much. Being indispensable is lovely, and I think it's one of the reasons we hold on to it for so long. But we also realize it anchors us in place. It means we overwork and don't get compensated for it. If the company can't afford to lose you where you are, they will not move you up to where you want to go. Let me say that again. If the company has a perception that they cannot afford to lose you in your current role, you're going nowhere fast. And this is the ultimate sign you've outgrown your role and your strategy for promotion. Your strategy for promotion at this point is broken because they can't afford to lose you. There's no chance. But you can change that. If you've recognized yourself in one of these, you've outgrown the strategy you've used to get to where you are. Not because you're failing, but because you're succeeding at the wrong level. The problem isn't your skill. It's that leadership strategy that hasn't evolved with your capabilities. Your ability to be the leader has changed, but your strategy to be viewed as that leader has stayed the same. Before we wrap up, I want to give you a moment to reflect, because awareness without reflection just becomes more noise. These questions I'm about to share with you are designed to get your honest impression of yourself about where you are, why you're stuck, where your leadership strategy needs to evolve. Because I've covered so much today, I want you to now know what applies to you. There's more here than applies to every single one of us. So I want you to understand what exactly applies to you so you can take the individualized approach to change things. If you can, take a deep breath, breathe slowly in and out, place your feet flat on the floor. Obviously, if you're driving or running or whatever while you're listening to this, then fair enough, you can't. But if you can, feet flat on the floor, ground yourself, breathe in and breathe out with each prompt I'm going to give you. Right, here we go. Prompt number 1. Where am I relying on overperformance instead of leadership? Let me repeat that. Where am I relying on overperformance instead of leadership? Think back through the week you've just had. Where did you jump in to save something? Where did you take an extra work because you couldn't leave it behind? Where did you carry more than your share? And ask yourself, is this the work of the next level leader I'm becoming, or the work of the role that I've decided I've outgrown? That's your first question to understand. Where are you overperforming instead of leading? Prompt number 2, who actually sees my leadership? Not my output, my leadership. Which senior stakeholders have seen your decision-making, your strategic thinking, your influence, your ability to lead under pressure? If the list is short, that's not a failure. It's a roadmap for you. You know what you need to work on. Prompt number 3, where am I still proving instead of positioning? Where in your work are you finding yourself justifying, explaining, defending, or trying to earn credibility? And what might shift if you replace proving with clarity, brevity, confidence, outcome first communication? This is the start of your executive presence. Prompt number 4. What's one conversation I could reframe using strategic language this week? Think of a meeting, a proposal, a one-on-one, or a cross-team discussion. Instead of leading with detail or execution, commit to leading with outcome, impact, alignment, trade-offs. Pick one conversation, one experiment. You will feel the difference, and so will everybody else. Okay, prompt number 5. What would become possible if I let go of my workhorse identity? If you stopped being the fixer, the rescuer, the one who holds everything together, what space would open up for you? What opportunities? What boundaries? What power? What growth? This is where your next level begins, not by doing more, but by doing differently. You've outgrown the strategy that got you here, and that's not a problem. It's a sign of growth, a sign you're ready for more. And if this episode has you realizing that you've been stuck because you've been too good at the wrong things, I want you to stick around for next week's episode, because we're going to explore exactly how to shift that and what support might look like if you're ready to lead differently. Your next level isn't about effort. It's about evolving who you are right now. So as you walk away from today's episode, I want you to hold on to one truth. You are not stuck because you're not good enough. You're stuck because you've outgrown your old strategy. And outgrowing something isn't a failure. It's an invitation to lead differently, to be seen differently, to step into a new version of your leadership. One that isn't powered by overperformance, but is powered by your clarity, your presence, your influence, your alignment. I want you to feel a shift, that moment of, okay, something needs to change and I'm ready to do things differently. Make that this week. Make that today. Make this week's episode of Leading Women Tech. Listening to this is your signal to be different, because hard work is not the solution. Next week, we're going to go deeper. This is me going to be setting you up for 2026, because we're going to be talking about where your self-doubt actually comes from, where your brain is reinforcing the stories that keep you invisible, and how to break the cycle leading into 2026. So you show up next year with high confidence, great self-trust, and understanding what to do with what we've learned today and turn it into your own promotion strategy, because you have the mindset to back it up as well. We're all about transforming you in this season. So if you're thinking, yes, this is me, I want you to know you're in exactly the right place, because we are talking all about this for the rest of the year. For now, though, take a breath. Let today's episode sit with you. And remember, that next level isn't about effort. It's about evolution. You're already on your way. I'll see you next week. Bye for now.